Hi everyone, Lisa Tamati here from Pushing the Limits. Fantastic to have you along again this week. And this time we're going to be doing a webinar with my business partner at Running Hot Coaching, Neil Wagstaff, and we're going to be talking about strength training and why it's beneficial for runners and the types of different strength training, the different phases of strength training, the purposes of the different types and so on. So it's going to get a little bit scientific this week, but very in depth. So hang around for that. I'd also like to ask you to go and give us some love on iTunes. A rating and review is the best way to show your appreciation if you enjoy the show, as well as sharing it with your friends and networks. So if you could hop onto iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, really helps the show, and I'd really appreciate it. And as always, if you've got any questions around running, around health or mindset, please reach out to me on Lisa at lisatamati.co.nz, and I'll try to help you out. That's what we're all here for. All right, now over to the show. Hi everybody, Lisa Tamati and Neil Wagstaff here from Running Hot Coaching, and today we've got another fantastic webinar for you. And this is going to be one that Neil's going to be taking the lead on as exercise scientist, and it's all about strength, run-specific strength training, how to build your stabilization phase into your strength phase and then your power phase if you want to go into that, and it's going to be getting a little bit scientific today, but really some real top value information on why the strength is important and how to build the strength, and then how to use our programs that we've already got existing for those who are members. So over to you, Neil. We're going to start with a question that we have from one of our current athletes, Jared Pink, who is running the Northburn 100, which is a mountain 100-kilometre ultra marathon coming up next March, and he wants to know how to build the strength into his regime. So that was the question that got us started on this. So let's start there, Neil.
Yeah, so first things first, to help Gerald out initially and make sure he gets the answers to his questions. Every one of our programs, when you train with us and when you come on board with us, has a periodized strength program within it. Now, most of them are going to be based around your own body weight and your own body weight strength development. Reason being, vast majority of our athletes are either training at home or they're training without access to a gym. Okay,
can you explain periodization to everyone?
Good question. So periodization basically means that over a period of, say, for example, 20 weeks, if you're building up to a 100K ultra in over a 20-week period, your training should fluctuate over that period. It shouldn't all be at the same high volume throughout. It shouldn't all be at a certain low volume. You should find there's peaks and troughs throughout it. So our programs will peak and trough with regards to the running volume. So for example, in one of our 100K programs, you may have 2 weeks of high intensity, followed by a week of low intensity where the body recovers before we take it back up again. Now the same is going to happen from a strength training point of view as well. We're going to periodize that. And we're going to periodize it in a way where we create a strong foundation and then build on top of that foundation. Okay.
That's a good place to start, a good foundation. Don't build
everyone wants a good foundation. So a lot of the reference we make today will be around using body weight. It'll be around using things like kettlebells, bands, TRXs. The same principles apply if you are training in the gym as well. You're just going to have more access to a wider range of equipment. Okay.
All right.
So let's give a few definitions to start with. So stabilization, the ability to provide optimal dynamic joint support and maintain correct posture during all movements. So what I mean by that is you want to put your body in a position that it can control the movement it needs to do. Okay, if I'm struggling with a squat, for example, and I'm not stable in a squat, and then I go and try and load it by putting a lot of weight on my back, or going and trying to do it fast, like doing a squat jump, if it's not stable to start with, then the chances of injury go up massively.
Yeah.
But the first things first, you want to get your body stable. I've heard you say it loads of times, Lisa. You want to make sure that when you're running long distances, your ligaments, tendons have been conditioned to do it. So part of stabilization phase is making sure your tendons, ligaments, and those smaller stabilizing muscles that hold the joints in place, they are conditioned. Yep. They're the ones that are going to give you the ability then to run off road when you're running trail, and the chances of your ankle collapsing or your knee twisting or your hip caving, they're all things that the stabilization phase will help really fire up those deep muscles.
For me, one of the key ones was core. And when I had a very bad back injury, as you know, Neil, and I started doing 2 high intensity core routines where I was doing, one-legged burpees and things straight out of the gate, and that didn't end well. And before you came and corrected me, of course, there, Neil. And the reason was because I didn't have the stabilizers strong enough to be able to cope with that level of advanced exercise. I do now, especially in the case with a back injury. So there's just a little example of why.
Perfect example as well. And comparing the core as well, Lisa, you would have done a lot more stability work on your core with muscles like your pelvic floor, your diaphragm, your TVA, multifidus, and a lot of your deep in your internal obliques, your deep core stabilizers. Same principles apply to your shoulder. You want to make sure your rotator cuffs can stabilize your shoulder first before you start doing real heavy weights. Otherwise, if they can't stabilize it, then chances are you're going to end up in trouble. So the whole point of stabilization, it gets all those muscles that hold your body in place to do the job they should.
Yeah, just did that injury not long ago, actually. Because you weren't around.
We'll keep working on it, Lisa. We'll keep working on it. And the other bit as well, which is great from a stabilization point of view, as you'll see as we move through, is it's great for developing endurance, okay, and progressing into endurance as well, which takes us on nicely to our muscular endurance. So this is really important from a running perspective, the ability to produce and maintain force production over prolonged periods of time. So just the ability to do something over a prolonged period of time should ring true with every runner that's listening to this. Yeah. We want to be able to do the same movement for long periods of time. So building up and doing everything we can to increase our endurance is going to be a key part of that. All right. So a lot of our programs at Running Hot and the members that are listening will know are built around stabilizing your body through good core work, deep stabilization, and then progressing into more endurance-based activities. We're working on slightly higher rep ranges and working on more strength-based movements. Okay.
Yep.
From there, now one of the other phases that you can progress into after you've been through your strength endurance is looking at hypertrophy. Now, we won't spend a lot of time in hypertrophy. It does have its place, and it has its place, as you can see, Arnie here. It has its place if you want to be looking good and looking great. Now, for some runners who need to put on some lean tissue, then great, we're getting through hypertrophy. But not always appropriate. It's not our goal with any of our runners to get them carrying huge amounts of lean tissue, because it's not going to give them what they need to be running long and efficiently.
So what happens when you put on too much muscle weight? You're obviously having to carry it. You're having to feed those capillaries. Your blood has to feed all that muscle, and so that's obviously counterproductive to being a long distance running athlete, or even over shorter distance. So we're always trying to optimize our fitness to our sports. You cannot have an all-round fitness, although CrossFit does claim that it does. There is always trade-offs. You're either you're going to trade off strength for speed or endurance, etc. And I know I've had phases too where I've gone too hard out in the gym and ended up putting on too much muscle mass for the goal that I had. Once again, needed Neil's guidance.
And I think that's hit the nail again, as you always do, Lee, hit the nail on the head perfectly, is understanding that related to the goal. So sometimes if you've just come off the back of a long run and you've got some downtime and want to be looking better for the beach, then we can add some hypertrophy in and we can start developing the lean tissue. If you want to shed a few more kgs, then really focusing on developing some more lean muscle tissue is a great way to do that. So there is a time and a place for it, and if you're unsure on when to add it in, but I wouldn't say it's a big phase that we're going to put in when you're building up to an ultramarathon, for example. There wouldn't be a huge amount of it, just simply because developing the lean tissue in line with the running. If you've already got some lean tissue, we're going to get more out of giving you strength endurance than we would giving you hypertrophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right, so moving on, we have then got our strength phase. So strength phase, we're looking at max strength and the ability here of the neuromuscular system to produce internal tension in order to overcome an external force. So basically, this is getting as many of your muscle fibers firing as regularly as you can. So you'll be using heavy weight and low reps. Okay, so again, an argument for it, and it can be used as part of a running program, and it can be used if we need to build strength. It needs to happen at certain times, and the muscle soreness and the breakdown of the muscle that can come with this doesn't often fit well with a running program. Okay, it's depending on what part of the running program you're in. So here, from a periodization point of view, I wouldn't be necessarily going through this when you're a month out from your ultramarathon goal.
So in the case of, say, Jared doing the Northburn in March, we're now in November, would this part of the program come into... I wouldn't
do it with Jared in the build-up. I'd have Jared focusing mainly on the stabilisation phase and then the muscular endurance. There will become, with the muscular endurance phase or strength endurance phase, there'll be some bigger strength style movements that come in there, but we'd be working on higher reps to work the endurance rather than going into the real big strength lifting.
Okay, and we've got a nice little typo error there.
Yeah, well spotted.
Did that too fast there, Neil.
Yeah, well spotted.
Right,
and then power and speed. So power and speed is really going to be what gives us the ability to move force as fast as we can in the shortest amount of time. Okay, so a lot more the CrossFit you mentioned earlier. This is their style of training and their programming that will come in. It's the ability to move that object as quickly as you can. So this is good if you want to be looking at developing speed. You've got to make sure, though, that the foundation has been well built here. As an example, if I'm going to be trying to do a fast overhead movement with a bar, where I might be squatting down and then pushing it above my head in the thruster movement, then I need to make sure that my core can take that, the stabilizers in my shoulders can take that, my squat is tidy enough that I can take it.
Yep.
And then I can do it well. So if you want more speed and you're going to develop speed over shorter distances, then don't be surprised if we progress you into some movements and some speed work like this. From Jared's point of view, he could be looking at some more explosive speed work with a kettlebell as we get into closer to his event. And I'd say there he'd be looking at progressing into that sort of after week 12, getting into week 14, 15, 16. Before starting to then get into his taper. Okay, but you want to make sure there that you've definitely got the foundation built, you've got the endurance, and we're at a position there he's going to be doing some quite high volume runs. So we want to make sure that from an energy point of view, you're keeping the strength levels up without emptying the tank in the strength sessions and then not having anything for your long run at the weekend.
Yep, been there, done that too. In the case of an athlete, say, who wants to do a PB on a 5 kilometre and is aiming towards a really top time in their 5K for them, would this power and speed be a bigger part of that program in that case?
Be a bigger part of that program, yes, definitely, as long as they have got the stabilisation first. So it's about finding out where the athlete is at the starting point, at least. If they've got a good training age, and what I mean by that is it's not your actual age, it's the years you've been exposed to strength training. Right. So you could have a 40-year-old with a training age of 1. Oh. You could have they've literally just been exposed to strength training for 1 year. Or you could have a 25-year-old with a training age of 6 years.
Yeah.
So effectively, the 25-year-old is further ahead than the 40-year-old. So we always take that into account, especially when you're progressing people up, is where is their training age? What's their experience with lifting? The more advanced they are, the more likely we're to speed them up. And the less advanced they are, the slower we'll take the process.
Makes sense.
Okay. So those are the phases that we work people through. Okay. And as a general rule, with our athletes, we're going to focus more around stabilization, strength, endurance. There is definitely a role for the other areas, but that's going to be more down to an individual case-by-case basis.
Yeah, the specific goals that they have. Yep.
All right. So the other thing to bear in mind is and this is one of the best things I was ever taught as I was going through my learnings, is the SAID principle. So the specific adaptations to impose demands. I've seen so many people over the years make the mistake that they are training for one goal. So a common one I've seen in the gym environment many, many times is guys that are looking for hypertrophy. So they're looking to develop lean muscle tissue, want to be looking good on the beach, want to get ripped up.
Yep.
And what they're actually training for is max strength. So if you remember what we talked about before, max strength is you're going to be lifting low reps, 1 to 5, with a real heavy weight. So they're going to become stronger, but they're not actually going to change shape massively.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what you want to do is the load you want on your body should be the one for the adaptation you want. So as runners, we're looking to develop more endurance, hence why there's more load on strength endurance for us. We want that specific adaptation in our bodies, in our athletes' bodies, so we want to put them under that load more regularly.
So to go back over to the rep range for each, for those different ones. So the rep range for stability and for endurance is what again?
If you give us a few minutes, because we'll come to that and we'll lay that out for each one bit by bit. But great question. We'll cover that in a bit more detail in a minute. So here, if we just give a summary of the SEB principle, for stability, it will give us a stronger platform. For muscular endurance, it means we're going to be able to go harder for longer. Hypertrophy will change our body composition. Strength means more muscles fire together, and power and speed means it happens as fast and as hard as possible.
Wow, got a screenshot of that one.
If you want the result you want, so if you want stability, you don't want to be moving as fast as you possibly can. Okay? If you want power and want to be able to move an object as fast as you possibly can, you don't want to be hanging around on one leg and for long periods of time. It's not going to get you there. So this is where a lot of people will with their programming, they go, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, without thinking about what do I want out the other end. Okay? In a 100K ultra, you want endurance. And you want to be stable and strong, and you want to be able to use your muscles for long periods of time. So let's put that demand on the body so that we can get that result. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that really is worth screenshotting, people, if you want to grab that so that you can work out exactly what it is you want. So that's probably, it's getting your goals together, writing it down, and then working out your strength programs, or indeed coming on our programs.
Right, so let's make it a little bit easier to understand. It's like building a house. You've got your stabilization phase at the bottom. From there, you can start to put the frame up. You can put the structure up. Once you put the structure up, we can start to think about getting a roof on, and then we can start to put the walls and everything else on. Okay, we're not going to start to paint it and put the curtains up and get the nice furnishings until we've got the stabilization. So we try and put the curtains up before the foundation's down, it's just going to collapse.
So this is relevant for all athletes then, the stabilisation and strength phase, regardless if you're heading to the CrossFit World Champs or an ultramarathon or a 5K, you all have to start in that stabilisation and strength building phase.
Should all start there. And what everyone should understand as well is where I start at it is going to be different than where you do, Lisa.
Yeah.
And where someone that's never trained before, it's all going to be different. So you can see some people doing some pretty advanced stabilisation work, a lot of single leg work, a lot of work with single leg, single arm, holding moves for long periods of time. And others that for them, a stabilisation may be a press up on their knees because their body's at that point. Whereas others, a stabilisation may be that they're doing a press up on a Swiss ball.
Yep.
Okay, or with one arm because they've developed that level of stabilisation. So as you remember, we talked at the start about periodization. As you come through and cycle through your training, your body will plateau. So every 6 to 8 weeks, it plateaus. So you either want to change the type of training you're doing or the phase you're in, move through to the next phase. And as you go into the next phase, you then move up. And when you come back to stabilization again, you're going to be able to do the more advanced options because you're now stronger, more stable, and then you just keep cycling through. So for our athletes as runners, we'll often cycle people through stabilization and muscular endurance. And then they're getting stronger, they can do more, getting stronger, they can do more. And sometimes we'll move them further up the ladder. Again, goal dependent. But you should be keeping the variety there and allowing as well the stabilization because you're dropping volume and intensity. It allows some recovery as well.
Perfect. So explain now this nervous system versus the muscular and skeletal system.
Okay, perfect. So if we go, this helps a little bit more. Basically, the kinetic chain is made up nervous system, muscular system, skeletal system. We need to chain all three of these. Okay, so an easy way to imagine it is your nervous system will send messages to your muscular system, which then moves your skeletal system. If there's a breakdown in any of these three, i.e. we are sending messages from our brain to our leg muscles to do a particular exercise, and the leg muscles are receiving them in Chinese, but we're trying to talk to them in English, then the way the body moves is going to be slightly off.
Yep.
The beauty of something like the stabilization phase is that it trains not only the muscular system, skeletal system, more importantly, it's training the nervous system. So we're firing up the system, we're getting more messages out there. We're like rewiring a house, we're rewiring our bodies, we're getting more activity coming from the nervous system to the muscle so that it knows how to deal with movement and the right messages are going to the right parts of the body.
And in regards to the nervous system, so like working with mum who's had brain damage, that's been a crucial part of everything that we do is that stabilization phase and that being able to coordinate those movements and send the correct messages. Like in her case, it was a blatant example of the connections, the movement patterns being broken. So the messaging wasn't getting, like when you used to say, lift your foot, we can lift our foot. She couldn't lift the foot. So I had to reconnect that whole nervous system, let alone the muscular and the skeletal system, which was still intact, you know, like she didn't have a spinal cord break or something like that that would stop that. But there's the communication was stopped, if you like. And then with the nervous system too, you're also looking at your electrolytes and things like that, hydration and those sort of things as well come into the nervous system, where they're actually speaking how well your muscles are contracting, how well that messaging's getting across there. Is that right, Neil?
Perfect. And again, it's looking at which we're all about, Lisa, is looking at the whole holistic model. So it's looking at, and if we use the example with that example spot on, we start to bring it back to running, then you'll see that if I'm going to go and run a trail ultramarathon or a trail marathon or a trail 5K or trail 10K,
yep,
I know that if I go out and I haven't done it before and I take my ankles, my knees, my hips, my kinetic chain, I take it off road. As I take it off road, I'm not going to have the speed to respond because my body hasn't been used to doing that, and I haven't trained the nervous system to send the messages that quickly, exactly as you're doing with Mum and have done with Mum over the past few years.
Yep.
Her muscles are there, but they haven't been getting the messages. So now we've seen her struggle to stand up, and now we can watch her walking and jogging. Now, she's done that because you've taken the time to refire the muscles, strengthen them up, and then give the system the fuel it needs, i.e. the water and the electrolytes and the food, so that it works. So it's the whole picture. If there's one bit missing, it's not going to do the job it should.
Absolutely, and electrolytes are a huge part of that system. Like with in the case of Mum, I've just got her on alkalizing salts, for example, because that will help with her coordination and her the electrolytes, the electrical messaging going across, and it's all these little pieces of the puzzle that make up a complete athlete. So, and
sometimes the things that you think will be off, like people will be very diligent with their strength training, very diligent with their running, diligent with their food, but if there's something off with the hydration, then the system's just not going to work as it should. So you can do all the training in the world you want, if you're not giving it what it needs to fire, it's not going to.
That's why we harp on about the basics, hydration.
Okay, so before a lot of people will train in here in the muscular systems. They come straight in and train the muscular system without thinking that I need to set the nervous system up first. So the nervous system needs to be trained, and it's not often you'll hear someone going out, again, I'm just doing some nerve curls. People talk about doing they do their bicep curls. But you don't hear someone going out, I'm just doing my nerve raises or my nerve holds, but it's that part of the kinetic chain and that part of the system that you need to get doing the job it should. And from a runner's perspective, if your nervous system is firing as it should, then that's going to carry on sending messages long into a race. It's going to carry on doing the job it should, and it's going to be able to respond to the ground that you're running on, and therefore keep you moving forward more efficiently.
So this is your coordination exercises, that type of thing, stabilizing when you're running on trail, for example. A lot of people who are coming off road and onto trail, all of a sudden, what the hell happened to my times? You know, I was running, 5-minute Ks on the road, and then I hop on trail and I'm, completely off 7-8 minutes or whatever, because that stabilization work hasn't been done. You've been able to plod on a road where there's nothing. There's no branches, there's no rocks, there's no hill, no difficult terrain to run over. And this is where that training, so it takes a while to adapt into that trail running. And that's why, once again, that's that SAID principle. If you're going to run a trail race, make sure you train on the trails and on the trails that you're going to be facing. If they're single track, then, or if they're gravel roads, or what are they? So it's getting that specific adaptation happening.
Yeah, 100% correct, Liz. 100% correct. Right, so with that, athletes, as we've talked about there at length, athletes must have all three systems trained. So if you're not training the nervous system, then something's going to fall down. If you're not training the muscular system, something's going to fall down. If the skeletal system's not included, something's going to fall down. So that's why, again, the periodization we talked about at the start, we should be cycling in and out of the phases so that we can continue to produce and work our way up further and further. Exactly the same as we do with our running. Like we talked about with the example of one of our 100K plans, we have 2 weeks of high intensity. We cycle out into a lower volume week to recover, recoup, and then we go back in. And when we go back in at high intensity, it's slightly higher than it was before.
Yep.
And then that just keeps building up. The same thing's going to happen with our strength. And when you get it right, the strength should complement those phases as well. So as volume increases, so does our strength. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right, so just a quick overview here. We've talked about this a lot. Those of you who haven't heard it, look at it, memorize it. If your body is in good alignment and you're not used to checking your kinetic chain checkpoints, you want to make sure that you are checking this on a regular basis. The reason I've thrown this in here is if you load a structure or kinetic chain that is not moving well, then you are setting it up for pain, you're setting it up to break, you're setting it up for failure. Okay, so if you have decided as a runner that you've been recommended to do some strength training, you go in and start lifting and you've got poor posture, then you're going to load that poor posture, which is going to make it worse. So the first thing you should attack first is how and what position is your body in. If you're unsure, give us a shout. We can help you with that. We're taking you through a postural analysis and how to use the kinetic chain checkpoints. But make sure your body is moving well and it's moving efficiently. Okay. We encourage most people to start with body weight for the simple reason you start with body weight and you get these movements right first, and then you can start to add some weight to it. If you add weight straight away, chances are it's gonna hurt. Okay, and this comes back to your training age as well. If you've got a young training age, like we were talking about earlier, my example, the 40-year-old with a 1-year training age, then better to start with body weight and progress up rather than someone that's got a 10-year training age and we know they're used to loading themselves and we know they've done it with good technique. Okay.
What are some of the common areas of trouble for kinetic chain points? I know, like for me, one of them is the head.
So we see some of the common things you'll see, and people can do this by simply doing a simple sit to stand or squat test at home in front of a mirror. They can sit down and stand up on and off a chair, put themselves in front of a mirror. Have a look at your feet. Feet should be sitting straight ahead. Now, a common thing that a lot of people will see is the arch collapsing. Mm-hmm. So the arch collapse. Okay, so that's something you want to look for. Is the arch collapsing while the feet still facing forwards? Other things that we commonly see are toes pointing out or feet pointing out. Okay, ideally you should be able to keep everything in good alignment as you're standing up, sitting down. So if that's happening, i.e. you're turning out or the arch is collapsing, there'll be tightness in your muscles that are causing that to happen, and you want to address those things. Knees should be straight in line with toes. If the arch is collapsed, for example, the feet are out, you can see that the knees, as the arch collapse, the knees will cave in and fall inside of the feet, which imagine putting a bar on your back to do some serious strength work. When your knees are caving in, it's going to hurt. Yeah. Okay. Lower back, neutral spine, we often see a anterior tilt. So if you imagine your pelvis like a bucket of water, we'll see the pelvis tilting forward. Imagine you're spilling water out of it. Yeah, Lisa's going to show us.
Try to. So if you're like tipped forward, or you're the other way, then you actually should be neutral. That's the sort of middle. Yep. So,
and then shoulders, common ones we see. And I'm being very stereotypical here, guys and girls. I'm just sharing the common ones we see. There's other ones, a lot of other ones as well. But shoulders are often internally rotated. So we'll see people rounded at the shoulder or elevated at the shoulder, and with the head sitting forward. Yeah. So you want that head to come back. So you've got head and neck and a neutral spine. So those things, again, a little checklist you can check yourself. So before you go to move, if you feel that you are internally rotated at the shoulder, start getting the shoulders back to where they should sit, putting the head back into where it should sit. Lifting the arch, consciously putting yourself in a position where you are thinking about lifting the arch. Doing some movement with the foam rollers, the balls where you use nose on the feet. That'd probably be another webinar in itself, just talking about how to treat the kinetic, look after kinetic chain. But the point is, you want to make sure your kinetic chain is moving well before you load it. All right. So to your question earlier, Lisa, just with rep ranges. So if you're looking at adding stuff into your programming around the stabilization, okay, so the stabilization phase, we know is going to give us stability. It's going to stimulate that nervous system. It's going to fire it up, and it's going to really look after those deep supporting muscles. So rep range you're looking for, 12 to 20 reps. Now, 1 to 3 sets. So if you're short of time and you've got time to just do 1 set of 12, go for it. You're going to get benefits. Okay, people think they've got to be in doing an hour at a time. You don't need to. If you've got time and you're more advanced and you want to go for 3 sets, you can go for 3 sets of 12. So a nice way to progress this is you can start at 12 reps, move to 14, 16, 18, and 20, which all our athletes will be familiar with seeing in their programs. Now, tempo here, what we mean by tempo is your speed of movement. All right, so speed of movement, tempo, we've got a 4-2-1 there. All I want you to remember here is slow, okay? So stabilization is not going to come from quick movement. It's going to come from slow, controlled movement. So 4, if you were doing a squat, for example, on the down phase, you'd go for a count of 4. You'd hold and stabilize at the bottom for 2, and then pop back up for 1 second. Okay, so when you look at this, most people aren't used to doing this sort of thing. So a lot of people find after a good stabilization work, they're breathing and sweating hard because they're not used to moving at this sort of speed. So slow on the way down, a little hold at the bottom. Now the hold at the bottom, if you imagine you're holding in a squat, that's going to make all the little muscles around your ankles, your knees and your hips and your core stabilize. We want to force them to hold so that they get stability, and then you can pop back up. On a press up, for example, if you go slow on the way down, hold at the bottom, guess what's happening around your shoulders as you're holding? You're stabilizing, okay? And they're all, when you're moving slowly, the nervous system is going, right, fire up, fire up, fire up, and then we can pop back up from there. Okay, so your eccentric phase or your lengthening phase is going to be slow. Your stabilization phase will be a second or 2, and then your concentric phase will be a pop back up.
So this is the opposite, say, for an arm curl.
Yep.
You're wanting to go slowly on the down, aren't you, on the eccentric phase?
Correct. Slow on the way down.
Yeah, it's working out which is the eccentric phase and which is...
Yeah, so that's why, for ease for the listeners and for those that are using our programs, we generally will just say work on a slow tempo. Yep. So move slow, okay? And you're generally not going to get too many curls in our programs.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be at the beach. Yeah. And then intensity-wise, it's not a high intensity. So it's 60 to 70% intensity-wise with a rest period of 0 to 90 seconds. So you can have it as a circuit, which is how we program a lot of our training. There's a circuit where you're just going from one exercise to the next with no significant rest, or you can have rest up to 90 seconds. Frequency 2 to 4 times a week. Our programs with our running and everything else we're doing, we usually recommend twice a week. Okay, if you drop your running volume down, we can take this up. Then exercise selection, what we mean by that is stabilization, so stability.
That's
so
yeah.
Type of exercise you're choosing, I wouldn't be choosing a big, heavy squat. Okay, I may be choosing a single leg TRX squat because it's making me balance on one leg. It's unstable. I could be choosing a pistol squat. I could be choosing a lunge. I could be choosing something that's going to throw me off balance a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Right. So then as we progress through strength endurance. So here you'll see as we go into strength endurance, there's a difference in reps. So the reps are starting to come down. So we're going to start to develop a little bit of lean tissue here. Not as much as we would in hypertrophy, but we're going to start to develop some lean tissue. Sets 2 to 4. Tempo is going to be slow. And what we've introduced here is a little bit of a superset. So what I mean by this is that we'll have one exercise that could be strength-based or is strength-based. So it could be that I do a bench press or press up, followed by an unstable exercise. So I might go from a bench press straight onto a BOSU press up or a TRX press up. Okay, or a press up on a ball of some sort. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, and then intensity 70 to 80% with slightly less rest.
So when you're talking about intensity here, you're talking about the amount of weight that you're taking on, or the advanced, how difficult the exercise is.
Correct.
And in the bench press, it would be like 70 to 80% of your max rep.
Yeah, so you're one, and in the intensity you're working at for ease, which works well with a lot of our athletes. Yeah, we're simply say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is I'm not doing anything at all. 10 is I am maxing out at the most I can do. You want it somewhere at a 7 or 8 out of 10. Okay, you can go to the point, and if anyone is interested, contact us individually. But you can look at doing 1 RNs. But in our environment, with how we're training and coaching people online and doing the 1 RNs,
is good enough.
Yeah. Rule of thumb of this is good enough. It becomes more important the more you're involved in weight, as more weight as well.
Yeah, okay. if you're into bodybuilding or something. Yeah. Now
progressing through, and we'll start to speed up a little bit now as we go into hypertrophy. We're looking at 6 to 12 reps, 3 to 5 sets. And you can see here the tempo is changing again. So here we're looking at each rep is taking around 4 seconds, slightly higher intensity, rest around 60 seconds, and we're in a stable environment now. So we've built the instability, we've done that. Now we're in a stable environment because I'm in a position now that I've got a good foundation. I know my deep shoulder stabilizers hold my shoulder in place. I know my core can hold me in place. I know my hips will be held in place. I know my nervous system will send the right messages, so I can start going for some good stable strength now.
So it's a bit heavier. And
yep. Okay, but here, this is key. Time under tension is key, and reps is key. So this is where those of you, which won't be as relevant for our audience, but this is where a lot of guys make the mistake of wanting to gain lean muscle tissue, and they will be in there going as quick as they can with a massive weight, more like strength, where they're not having enough time under tension. So you're going to need 4 seconds per rep, and you're going to need the right rep range. Okay. Right, and then as we come in, we're heading into, now you can see the difference now with our max strength. Reps have dropped. Sets have gone up. We're looking at a fast tempo, max intensity. So I'm getting the most weight I can lift now, really up there. Look at the rest period. Okay, you can see the rest now. I'm hanging around for, 5 minutes chewing the fat.
Wow.
Talking about what I've got on for the weekend. And this is again where some people make the mistake. They are not giving themselves enough rest when truly what they want is strength.
Yeah.
They're going straight back in after 60 seconds. You should be really letting those energy stores reboot and then go again.
So these are the big guys that you see at the gym doing the 150 kilos on the bench press.
Yeah, not always necessarily the big guys, Lise. I mean, I'm definitely no big guy, and I'll cycle through some strength training at certain points of the year at my level, and just to make sure that I'm adding that into the mix as well.
Into the mix. And this is where the whole periodization comes into all the plans. And this is all very scientific and very difficult to work out for your average everyday athlete who hasn't got 10,000 hours to study all this stuff. But the reason you need to understand all this stuff is then you can actually understand the plans that you get. Like if you come to us and you join on one of our plans, this is already done for you. This is giving you the reasoning behind. And I always find, like when I did maths at school, I was like, why the hell am I doing this? When you understand what it might be useful for later on in life, then the whole thing makes more sense. So that's why you need to understand this on a higher level, but then just trust in the plan because this has all been done for you.
Then top of the cake, so now we're putting the icing on the cake. We've built the stabilization, we've got the strength there. Now we can start moving around fast. All right, well now it's a case of, right, how fast can we do this? How quick explosively can we do it? So again, we've got a superset where we're starting with connecting what we've just done with our strength work and going straight into an explosive movement. This can be done as well. Some of our programming will have the athletes just moving quickly with a kettlebell. We won't worry about the strength portion before. We'll go straight into explosive movements with kettlebells, medicine balls, and skipping ropes, things like that, box jumps. So stuff that's getting them moving faster, moving more explosively. Yep. So again, this is appropriate. And coming back to Jared's first question, Jared, what you'll see in your program when you look online is you will see a period of stabilization, a period of core work, which is stabilization, which will work on all the deep stabilizers throughout the body. You'll then see a body weight circuit that takes you more into the strength endurance, where the reps go up and you're working either on reps or time. And then it will cycle you back through into some more stabilization. Now, if you feel you want the progression of adding some endurance in, then, some power work in, then what I suggest doing is checking out our bonus 8-week strength program. So that'll be in your plans. That'll be in the plans when you look on the menu, when you log in on the left-hand side. And you can start substituting some of your sessions that are already in the program for some of these for more variety. And just want to really emphasize as well, so that all our members know, that if you find that you're getting bored of what's in the actual program, there's a whole list of strength sessions.
Yeah.
There's the 8-week program here. There's other power-based sessions. There's core power-based sessions. So there's lots of different examples of workouts there that you can substitute into your program if you want to.
How do you know which workout works for which phase?
I think the best thing to do, if you've got questions about it, and that's what we encourage you to do as well, is drop us a message in the Facebook group, drop me an email, and then I can let you know, have a look at where you're at, and then say, right, stay with what you are on the program, or look at substituting in some of this. I mean, some of the feedback we've been getting from members using this program that you and I put together a little while back, Liz, is that the variety has just really spiced up what they're doing and given them a nice change to the training week as well.
Yeah, and with training, everything is about variety because that provides more motivation. It also provides more some different stimulus for your muscles, and you're changing things up. Changing things up is really, really crucial. So
And the other thing we encourage you to do as well, there's always going to be a way you can regress an exercise. And there's always a way you can progress an exercise. Yep. So if you feel like you've hit a plateau and the way you want to get over the plateau is either by making it tougher or having a bit of recovery, then post the question. I've been doing a basic body weight squat. How can I make it harder? I've been doing a basic lunge. How can I make it tougher? Or how can I make it easier? There's always a way, and all of our videos will include that. They give you the ways to make it harder and make it easier. But if you're not sure, just post the question.
Fantastic, Neil. I think we're probably anything else to add on to this session, or are we pretty much come to the
I think we're pretty much there, as long as just to summarise that it should be periodised. We've answered, I think, pretty well hopefully from Jared's point of view, that we've got the stabilisation, strength, endurance there. If he wants to add more in, then shout us. And I mean, as you know, Lisa, I can happily talk about these things till the cows come home. So I love it. It's just making sure that everyone else gets what they want from it as well.
And we also quickly went over the kinetic chain and being aware of your posture, even in everyday life. Like, how are you sitting in the chair? If you've been sitting for a long periods of time, making sure you get up. If you're using the iPhones a lot, which is something that we all do, bringing that chin in and just being aware more of your posture, so that when you go to actually run, you're not running like you've been sitting,
Exactly.
Getting that posture open and upright, because posture is a really, really big thing. And kinetic chain has such a massive effect. If you've got weak hips, if you've got weak knees, then it'll have a knock-on effect on the next joints. And this is why doing all these stabilization and doing all these strength exercises helps you avoid injury. And that isn't even getting onto the mobility side of things.
We'll have to do another one on that. So, Lisa, any non-members listening, what's the best way for them to get in, if they're liking what they listen to, get in touch with us and find out more about this?
Yeah, look, we have Running Hot Coaching as our platform, and head over to runninghotcoaching.com. You can find out all about us there. Check out our philosophies, the way we train people, our backstory. We do know our stuff, obviously. Neil's got the exercise science. I've been an ultramarathon athlete for 25 years and have pretty much reinvented the world 100 times with my training. And what we are all about is really meeting you where you're at and providing those specific plans for you. And to that end, we have 15 fully periodized plans in there, from 5K right up to ultramarathon. So from people who are just getting off the couch and putting the first pair of shoes on, right up to elite sort of ultramarathon runners. There is a program in there for you, and all the information that you could possibly ever need on everything from form and technique and strength and mobility and nutrition and mindset, all in the one space, all in the one club. And then we also have our fantastic accountability and community support through our Facebook groups and our live retreats, etc. So really all the information that you could ever possibly need for your running career, whether you're a beginner or whether you're a bit more advanced. And also all the health programs, and behind all this, people who are burnt out, that might be facing injuries, come and check us out. We know how to deal with athletes who are burnt out. I've been burnt out many times in my career and had to fix a lot of things, hormone balance, all of those sort of things are really, really important for athletes too. And training according to where you're at right now in life, each decade your training has to change and the way you approach things, so that you can still be running at 80, 90, 100 years old. Why not? It's doable. So check us out, runninghotcoaching.com. If you've got any questions for Neil or I, please drop us a line at either lisa@runninghotcoaching.com or neil@runninghotcoaching.com. We'd love to help you out. Make sure you join us and follow us on Instagram at Lisa Tamati or at Running Hot Coaching. We've also got a massive YouTube channel with over 500 videos on everything there, so make sure you follow us on there. Just type in Lisa Tamati and that will come up. Okay, so thanks very much for listening today, guys. Hope this has been helpful to our members and of course to our non-members as well.
Thanks, Lisa. Talk to you soon, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
To let you know about my Path of the Athlete Mindset Academy. This is an online e-course that you can do all around mental toughness, emotional resilience, developing leadership skills, and a never quit mentality. To find out more, go to lisatamati.co.nz and click under the mindset button, and I'll see you there.